Okay, everyone, I want to welcome you today. We have an employer who comes often and has great opportunities, great information to share. Jose Lopez is here from Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, and so he's going to offer you some information regarding the organization and some other insights that you guys may want to hear about. So, Jose,
okay,
take care.
Thank you. In the interest of trying to get to as much as I can that relates to where you're at, let me first ask a question as far as how many of you are ready to graduate maybe in the next 6 months? Anybody? No?
I'm already graduated.
You already did?
Yeah.
Okay. You already have? Okay.
No, I'm in July.
In July. Okay, good. So we're kind of like half and half right now. Okay, well, that's good. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to present just some basic information about applying for employment in the state of Illinois. Okay, the state of Illinois has various agencies, and let me see, how do we do this? Okay, here we go. Well, I'm going to skip over this part first. What we do is basically we want to know what your experience and your education level are within all the different agencies. So you have to match what your skills and experience are and your degrees along with whatever titles you're looking for. For example, going back to this, the Department of Children and Family Services is hiring for child welfare specialists, child protection specialists, and we're also looking for interns. Okay. What has happened within our department is that Central Management Services is the agency that not hires, but takes all the applications from everyone and grades the applications. Then when we ask for a list of grades, they send us a list of all the applicants that are qualified to apply for a position with our department. The problem that's happening right now is CMS is delaying the grading of an application minimal 6 months. So it's really bad. It's a year ago it was about 8 months behind. And the reason why this happened, they started taking electronic filings. People were able to do it online and submit it online, and they were not planning on adding additional staff. And when you do things on the line, more applications come in, and that's what happened. So they got backlogged. So what they did is they stopped accepting online applications, and they went back to the way of either mailing them in or dropping them off, hard copies. So, and then when that application is turned in, then the person at CMS will grade the application based on what is required of the position that they're applying for. So as you see, the child welfare specialist position right here, it prefers a master's degree, but will take a bachelor's degree in social work or in any related field. The related fields I'll cover in a few areas, but for example, psychology, sociology are related fields, so that's not an issue. For the child protection specialist position requires a master's degree in social work, or you could have a bachelor's degree and have 4 years of experience after you get your degree. That's what's really key when you're applying for these positions. You might, let's say for example, you worked for Metropolitan Family Services for 10 years. Then you just got your degree, your BA degree, and you're applying to the state. We don't recognize anything that you took prior to getting your degree. And a lot of people think that, no, I have 10 years of experience. How can I not have experience? But that's the way the system works. Everything that you take post your degree is what's accepted as experience. And a lot of people are getting failure grades because of that. But the thing is that a lot of people don't understand that that's how the system works. So it's very important, and I want to make clear to you that you understand that. So what did DCFS do? Because of all these issues that were coming up, we created this position right here, the intern option 1 position. And basically what it is, it's an entry level right out of college or the university to get hired into the system as an intern, paid intern, pays about $40,000. You're getting the experience, you're getting the training, and it's going to take you 1, 2, 3, 4 years, depending on which 2 of these titles you want to apply for. And you can get all of the experience and training within the intern position. So it's a very interesting situation. So that we are doing that, we're reaching out to various universities to make sure that the students are aware of this. If they want to try to apply for DCFS and come into a position that pays $40,000, that's not bad, you know. And then After you get the 2 years experience for that one or 4 years experience for this one, then the entry level for that position is $52,000. And if you're bilingual, they give another 5%. So that's how that works pretty much. So like I was saying, we look at all of the titles. These are all of the related titles that we accept. As you can see right here, psychiatry, sociology, counseling, guidance on early childhood development. So there's quite a whole list of accepted degrees that we will take. And these are the our offices. The one that you would send your applications if you submit directly to us would be to our Springfield office. And what I usually do is I tell everyone, if you are completing an application, send it to me to review it before you submit it so that I can catch anything that you might have missed or maybe put in the wrong place or whatever. And then once I receive it, I'll ask to send it back to you. You will complete it, sign it, date it, and then send me a scanned copy, which I will submit directly to Springfield for you. And at the same time, if it's for a regular position like a caseworker or investigator position, then they will forward it to CMS. So it'll go through us first and then to CMS. Okay, so you're given a first shot at maybe coming in as an intern, and then it's immediately sent to CMS for them to grade your application. Let's say, for example, you get hired as an intern. Okay, your application went to CMS, and let's say 6 months later, you get a grade from CMS, and you get an A grade. You have to get an A, B, C, or it's a failure. Those are the 4 grades you'll get. So if you get an A grade, at that moment, you can apply for a position, from where you're at as an intern, you can apply as a promotion at that point. So you have that option, which is good. You went in there for 6 months, but just remember, you have to have the experience level to get into the title. So you need to look at how much time you've been in that position. So if you need another 6 months to match that year that you need experience, you wait the 6 months and then you apply. So that's how it works, okay? State benefits, we hear about this all in the news all the time, right? Okay, how do you apply? Okay, well, you identify the title. You need to see if there's an exam required. And what I mean by an exam is there are a list of positions that do require a multiple choice exam. These are called the A list. But for DCFS, the only position that requires an exam is a the office associate option 2, which is kind of like a clerical position. That's the only one that gives you a multiple choice test. The rest of them are graded based on your education and your experience. That's how they grade you. Okay. So then it's one of the current job openings. Well, naturally, what you need to do is you need to communicate with that agency or directly with CMS. They have counselors on the 3rd floor here at the state of Illinois. You can go walk in, see a counselor, and they can tell you, this is what's open right now. So instead of applying for like 20 positions and none of them are open, talk to one of the counselors and they'll tell you these 4 positions you should apply for based on your experience and education. So that's how it works. If you want to, and on the application asks you what county do you want to work in. Originally you have room for 2 counties. You could put Cook, DuPage. If later on you want to add more counties, you can do that. Just let CMS know that you want to add more counties to where you want to be, have the possibility of being hired. You complete the application and then you follow the process of applying. So like I mentioned, education, experience, and your special skills, if it's another language or sign language or anything else. Okay? And like I mentioned, most of the professional positions do not require a written exam. Usually it's the clerical, mental health technician positions in DHS, entry-level positions, caseworker positions at DHS, like the social service career trainee is an entry level for a caseworker at DHS. So that would require that. Okay? So I already talked about that. This one right here is kind of small, but these are all the Group A titles where you would have to take an exam. As you can see, it is not too clear, but it's in your page. It says right there, most of them are clerical related, coordinator, tax analysts. So these are persons that deal usually with numbers. It seems to be that numbers or clerical type work. Okay. And then in the back part, these are the positions I just mentioned. Now, no exam is required. It's all based on your experience and your education. And this is like a job posting that we usually put up in our agency. It'll say Child Protection Specialist, which is an investigator, salary range 42.91, 64.52 a month. Let's say, for example, you're working in another agency and you want to come over here, but you're earning like about 5,000 a month instead of this minimum. Do they start you at 42.91, or what do they do? What you do is you show them proof of what your current earnings are, and they can go up about 50, maybe 10 to 15% over that amount of salary. Anywhere from, well, let me change that. Anywhere from 5 to 15%, depending on the economy, the budget, or whatever the governor's office is saying at that time. So at least you'll get the base of what you're earning now, okay, coming in, okay? And then you start receiving the benefits. And right here it talks about the requirements that we require, driving license, or everything that's needed. Okay, we're going to get a copy of the application. Well, naturally, you can go to the third floor at the CMS and get a copy there. Or you go to the CMS website, to the Diversity Enrichment Program, and right there you click on the CMS 100 application, download it to your computer, start working on it. Please, when you fill out an application, a lot of people like to do it by hand, but when the person is reading the application, when it's done by hand, half of the time they're kind of trying to figure out what they're saying because of the writing or the printing that the person, it's always a battle for them. So if you can do it, keyboard it in or type it in like we used to say into the application. So when you complete the application, you keep it there and you just print out copies and then you sign it and date it and keep your application there so that whenever someone needs to see it or you need to go back and update it, you can go back and update that application. So that's what helps with that. Okay, I mentioned Diversity Enrichment Program where they have the counselors available. If you want to walk in and talk to them, they're available to you. They can review your application. If I'm not around anymore, you know to go to the third floor, okay, and talk to them there. Then you can submit the application by mail. They discontinued the online application. So is there an advantage of playing either way? Well, at this point, it doesn't matter. Okay, applying. Process of applying. Okay, you can take it in, you can mail it and take it in person. And we're going to skip this part. Okay, once they give us the okay that we can do that, then we'll scratch it off. Okay, the transcripts are very important. Okay, because when you're doing the application, there's a page on the application that's going to ask you for all the classes you've taken in the university and colleges before that. If you were only at one university, it's pretty simple. You get the transcripts and just fill it in. But if you've been in 3 different colleges, you got to get all those transcripts together and indicate them all on that application. And yeah.
Do they want it just from your most, so if you have a master's, do they want it just for your master's degree, or do they want your bachelor's and your
Everything that's post-high school.
Wow.
So
Yes.
even if you attended a graduate program, didn't complete that graduate program, they still want it.
Put it in there. Yeah, because it can give you credit for, maybe you took some classes in social work, and in this kind of position, any class that you take in social work will give you extra points for a DCFS position, even though you might be in psychology, but that helps you.
Okay.
Even if you didn't finish degree, we'll still look at you because you have a BA, you know, but anything you've taken after that, that helps, definitely. Any other questions on that part?
what about like continuing education credits? Does that help?
That does not go in there because it's not an actual classroom.
Right.
Well, it's a training, more of a less seminar. That would be just to keep your licenses going later. That's after you get hired, then they give you credit for that too. Okay. So as I said earlier, case completed if you can on the computer. Don't leave anything blank. I'm going to go over the application in a little while, so I'm kind of like jumping the gun here. But these are some of the issues that come up. If any of you speak a language, a different language, they do have the option line on the first page where you could put SS if it's Spanish, or if it's another language, there's different codes for that. Okay, I mentioned the grade. Once your application is graded by CMS, possible grades A, B, C, not eligible, or there's also a failure too. Yeah, I didn't bother to put that up. I didn't think it was a good idea. So anyway, now if you don't get an A, you can reapply in 30 days to try to get the A. If it's just based on the way you wrote it, you know, maybe you didn't put enough information. You gotta, if you've been working on a caseload or anything in that area, expand as to what do you do in that caseload. You make referrals. You refer people here. You're representing them before another program or whatever. put it all in more detail so that you get enough credit, and that way you get a passing grade. Sometimes you get a B just because of the wording. It's basically, I was a caseworker, and that's it. That's not going to help you. You got to expand on what you did as a caseworker. And when people tell me, I don't understand, I say, send me your application. I look at it, and that's what I have. I was a caseworker. I'm like, well, that was the problem. You didn't expand on what you were doing, and we give you credit for everything you do. So if you're doing referrals, you're doing counselings, you're doing all kinds of things, it helps out. So anyway, the grade is valid for a year, and then after a year you have to reapply if you didn't get called in that time. I'm hoping that someone passes the law pretty soon to extend that to 2 years, because it's this every year thing is kind of not enough time for many, especially when the CMS is taking the whole half a year to grade it. So anyway, so here we mentioned about the counties on the bottom. Okay. So right here, if a position is, if they are hiring, they're supposed to notify you by mail of the interview. They're not going to call you. They're not going to email you. They're going to send you a letter in the mail requesting an interview, and you contact the agency at the information that they provided to you. We have the Rotan interview process. Any position that's a union position goes through the Rotan process, which means there's no political issues related to that. You know, people are all asked the same questions. They're all graded, you know, based on those questions, and that's how the applicants are selected. Veterans have preference. They get a couple of points for being veterans up in the front. Okay. What else? The interview letter. If you change your address at any time, notify CMS. That's very important. Some people change their address and they forget to let CMS know, just like when you let the post office know that you changed your address. You can submit your resumes and transcripts when you come for the interview. You don't have to submit those with the application. Just submit the application. Keep that for the interview. Yeah.
Do they have to be official transcripts, or they can be the unofficial?
They have to be the official. Okay. I know that like in some universities, if they graduate at the end of May, they give them a transcript of what happened up to that point, but it's not an official one yet. It's going to take another month after they graduate to get the official, usually about a month. Sometimes we try to push some of the universities, but it's not that easy.
So if you bring the official transcripts with you, it should be in a sealed envelope?
Yeah, I would suggest that you always have a couple of copies of your transcripts in sealed envelopes. Order 3 minimum so you can open one to use it. Then the other 2, keep them there for when you need them. Yeah, that's a good point. So anyway, and now for our department, if you do get called in for an interview, we do a fingerprint and background check on everyone. Because we work with children, we definitely have to have that as one of our requirements. Okay. So the background investigation is conducted prior to being hired. They look into the background check by going into the Child Abuse and Neglect Tracking System, the CAN system, Sex Offenders Registry, background check. This is IDCFS, so that's why it happens. Same thing happens with state police. Any agency that's a safety agency, everyone has to go through this type of a system.
I have a question online.
Yeah. Yes.
The question is, what if you already have a background investigation for DCFS?
If you already work for DCFS, if you've already been in the system, you can request a where you'll be allowed to come into the system without going through the process. You still have to fill out an application. They call it a reinstatement. Okay. Coming into that happens with many of the state agencies. If you have to quit for medical reasons or for other reasons, and then a year later you want to come back into the system, you can request a reinstatement as long as you left in good standing.
So in essence, to if you took a break, how long is it technically valid? Like, because I know you use an example like if it's a year, but what if it's like a couple months? Is it still valid, or do you still have to reinstate?
You have to request a reinstatement. Once you quit, you quit. You're basically leaving the position. So the reinstatement is not an automatic thing either. Okay. You have to go through the process all over again, but they would come in as a reinstatement. If the agency is in desperate need to hire staff, and you have a person that's in that position, they might get hired very quickly.
Okay. Yeah, because
Yeah.
this individual was saying that she, or they have a DCF background check due to their internship.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so the person was an intern.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not paid intern or a regular intern? Didn't say? We have different
Non-paid.
intern levels.
Non-paid.
Non-paid. Yeah. Yeah. What happens, I mean, we give credit for intern volunteer work. You put that on the application as you were working. That gives you experience. But, it's kind of like depending on the person who's grading the application, how much experience they're going to give you for that. But if you're an intern within our system as a paid intern, you are getting full credit as work experience. Okay. Any other questions on that? No, yeah, the education verifications are very important. We will check employment references whenever there is an issue that we need to maybe go a little bit further. This is my contact information. You have it. Is it in your packets? I'm not sure. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So if you need to reach me, you can reach me at that phone number. That's my cell number. I give everybody my cell number because I'm not in the office most of the time. The best way to communicate with me definitely is the email. I will be responding to emails a lot quicker, definitely. If I have access to my emails, I will. But if you need to reach me, just leave me a message there and I'll call you from that number. I don't give anybody my office number. Nowadays, an office number is not really a number that's, practical. That's how I figure. So let me go into the application now. Okay, how do we go in here?
I have a question about the grading.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying that you compare it to your experience and education. Is there like a certain amount of points that you get for each thing, or is it like whoever is grading your application, they determine how many points you get for this, how many points you get for that, or is it like a set standard?
Well, the graders at CMS have their guidelines as to how they grade everything, and they're always looking for the minimum of whatever they require. So if they see that you have the minimum 2 years of work experience, they just make sure that you have the caseworker experience. Because if you were working, for example, in a daycare center, and you said you were a coordinator in a daycare center, that's kind of borderline because it's not really casework. So they have to really look at what you were doing as a coordinator, okay? If you were doing some referrals, you were doing some counseling or doing whatever you were doing, you need to put it all in there to see if you can get the credit for it. So did I answer your question? Yeah? Okay, I want to make sure. But
So it
yeah,
only counts after you get a degree. Is that
yes, yes.
right? Okay, so let's say I have my undergrad, like unrelated, and I ran a daycare for 7 years. Does any of that count since my undergrad wasn't in social work or psychology?
Well, let's say your undergrad was in human services, for example, or in business marketing. Yeah, in our department, business degrees would not be accepted.
So anything I did after that doesn't count?
That's a good question. I mean, the thing is, if you get a master's,
I owned a
if you,
daycare for 7 years.
Yeah, yeah.
That's credit.
but no, can't do it. But if you go out and you get your master's degree, yeah, I mean, then it changes the things.
But then it won't count unless I run a daycare after I get the master's degree.
Well, you know what? That's kind of that's a tricky one because if just if you get your master's degree today in psychology,
Yeah.
and you had your degree in a BA in something else, in math or whatever, and you've been working in the daycare, if you come in with a master's degree, if we look at the requirements, they might give you credit for the time that you were in the daycare center, even though you might have been doing some light casework. So that's kind of it's up to the CMS person who's grading you. See how generous they are. I mean, seriously, but if you have a master's degree, we definitely will hire you as an intern. Definitely, that will happen. Let me turn off my phone here. Okay.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
To be an intern, do you have to be a current student or just recently graduated? Because I received my master's back in 2012. So.
Okay, there's different intern levels. The special intern position that we created was a worker intern. Basically, you're in the entry-level trainee to become an investigator or a caseworker.
All right.
So that is a regular position now.
Okay.
But it's called an intern, but it's Child and Family Services intern option 1. It's a whole long title, but you have that title and you're a worker for the state.
Got it.
Now, there's interns that are being paid, but are summer interns. Like right now, interns are coming into our agency because they're doing summer internship. And then we have the interns that come into our agency because they need to get the credits for their degree. They come in for 6 months, go from September to December, get their intern requirement for their BA or MA, and then that's that intern. So that's the one that some of you may have already done. I don't know if you've done any intern work in any of the agencies. It could be a state agency, it could be a local community-based organization. So there's different levels of intern, but this one is a paid state employee intern, basically, entry level.
Is the intern option one, so there's no, it's not like you're doing it for a year and then you're done.
No, you stay in there
Stay in it until you get a different position.
until you apply for the promotion up into a regular position. Yes. We have I think one person that's in the intern position for about 7 years already.
Wow.
The person's happy in that position, doesn't want to get out of it, and I'm like, you should be applying for it. No, I'm fine where I'm at. Well, I figure money-wise, there is if you look at that page, did everybody get a copy of that dark page there? Okay. As you can see, the intern position does have a ceiling. It's from $33.71 a month to $48.26. Maybe she hasn't reached the $48.26 yet. So at that point, she's like, well, I'm still getting a raise every year, so, I'm not worried about it. So, that could happen. I mean, and you look on the front page where it has child welfare specialist and child protection specialist, starts at 52. And look at the amount. The max is $6,500 a month. So you're talking about what? At least $72,000 right there. And one thing that I do have to tell you is that when I was looking, if you go into the Springfield Journal, the newspaper, they have the salary of all the state employees. We're all listed there. So in there you can see the median. You could say salary for the different agencies. DCFS had the highest median salary of $72,000. So the highest of all the state agencies. You look at DHS and theirs was about $50,000. So as you can see, DCFS workers stay in longer. They get paid. And the other thing that is not referenced there is the fact that as a caseworker or an investigator, it is a 24/7 job. Even though you're not working 24 hours, but you're constantly, thinking about the families, or that evening you're thinking, I haven't gone to visit this kid, I better go out and visit this kid tonight. You do that kind of work. If you're accepted for overtime, you get paid overtime. So a lot of the caseworkers or investigators get paid big chunks of overtime. So some of them are earning $90,000, $100,000 a year. So but you're putting in the time though. I'm not going to say it's an easy job. It's not. It's stressful, but you have to look at what kind of job you want to look for.
There's a question: is travel covered?
Yeah, they cover mileage. Yeah, all mileage is covered as long as it's approved by the supervisor.
At 100%.
The mileage?
At a percent, yeah.
Yeah, right now I think it's like 52 cents a mile. That's what the state of Illinois pays, and it all has to be approved by your supervisor. If it's out of regular hours, they have to approve the overtime and the travel and so forth. So that's how that works. So let's go into any questions on the, okay, I think I covered as much as I can related to DCFS, but pretty much it's the same for all agencies, okay? It's the same thing for all agencies, so you can take that information pretty much, yeah.
I'm sorry. Typically, from the time you submit your application to possible hire date, what's the typical time frame from your experience? Is it 6 months? Is it a year?
Well, our agency continually posts positions every month, or sometimes every 15, twice a month. So you see postings go up, not necessarily for the same counties. Cook County usually, yes. But other counties, statewide, they'll jump on there every 2 months or every 3 months or whatever. There's very low turnover in downstate office. When I say downstate, outside of the Chicago metropolitan area. But in Cook County, Chicago, there is turnover, so there are positions continually going up. When you hear in the news that they're freezing, hiring. Okay, freezing hiring means you don't go above your head count, but you still have to fill what the head count you have. So even though they say we're not, there's a freeze,
Right.
that doesn't mean we're not hiring. It just means we have to just hire up to our head count. So we're continually. So the process, if you're lucky, if it's taking 6 months to get the grade, and then once the grade goes into the system, if that agency pulls a list of the people that are applied, and if you're on the list, you have a chance of getting called maybe within a month or two. But it all depends also on how many people are on the list, because they have a random choosing where the names are pulled from the list, not necessarily, I want this one, I want this one. No, the computer pulls the names of who's going to be interviewed, so that there is no favoritism. That's why they call it routine, because that's so that no one can say, I want this guy or I want this girl. You can't. So it's a blind list. So that makes it fair for everybody. Yeah.
So should we, okay, I'm graduating a year from now, in end of whatever, next July. Should I apply in January, or should I wait till I get my degree and then just?
Yeah, you should apply as soon as your degree. You're sure that you have your degree. If you get your degree on the 31st of May, you apply the 31st of May.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically the rule.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are the positions covered under the social services tuition forgiveness plan?
That is a specialty situation. I just heard something about that. It all depends on what the law is. I can't speak to that because I know that there's some special. Right? Yesterday I heard that they're trying to pass one where if you get into this special, if you already have a student loan, that there's this website where you can apply to have all your student loans rolled into one. You pay it for 10 years, and then what's left over after 10 years you're forgiven. So that's what I heard was out there right now. But I can't quote me because I'm not, anything within our system, as of right now, there is no loan forgiveness in our system that I know of. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so let's go over the application. How much time do we have? Oh, we're doing good. 10, 15 minutes. Okay. Always, when you fill out the application, make sure that you fill in everything on the top, okay, in this part here. The option part is only for language, okay? So if you have Spanish speaking, you put an SS, otherwise you leave that blank. When I mentioned that position, the option position, the way it reads on here, it says Child and Family Services intern option 1. All of that's going to fit right here. Even though it says option 1 on here, you're not going to put a 1 next to this option. That's only for language, like I mentioned. You put option 1, you write it in this part here. Okay? So that's, a lot of people make that mistake. The other mistake that people do is, for example, if they're applying for the child welfare specialist or child protection specialist, what a lot of them do is they put in both titles on the application in this line. You have to do a separate application for every title. Okay? So that's very important that you do that. And actually, you put in your information here. Birth date is optional. You don't have to. Driver's license, yes. Expiration is very important because we do travel. Sometimes we might have kids in our car and so forth. And so restrictions here for if you need glasses or so. The county choices right here, you could put Cook County, DuPage County, or whatever counties you want. It says Cook Zone. On the application, there's different zones within Cook. So I always tell everybody, just put Cook. Don't put a zone because that limits you to a certain part of Cook County only. Just put Cook. It covers the whole Cook County. And then if you want to add another county to it, you can put it here under number 2. And that's why it has little zones here. If you want to put, you say, I'm only working downtown, you're only zone 2, you're going to put zone Cook County 2 here. If you don't want to work a certain part of the county, okay, you can do that by zone, okay? Are you available for permanent employment? We'll not accept temporary. Permanent employment will accept temporary. Only those. Okay, I always tell everybody, B. We hardly have any temporary positions, so give yourself a chance with B. It covers everything, okay? On the bottom of the page, the veteran's preference. By law, we are to provide first shot for any position to veterans if they qualify for the positions. So if you know anyone who's a veteran, tell them that they should be looking into the state to try to get a position. They have that option. And then naturally your signature and date will go on this application as soon as you complete it totally. Don't do that until you finish the application first and have it reviewed. On this next part here, it says, have you ever been fired from a job? Yes or no? If you have, just write in there the reason why. I mean, if it's a layoff, that's not a firing. That's a layoff. If you were let go because the contract ended, that's not a firing. That's because of the contract ending. So when you put that on the other part that's coming up in a little while, but a firing is a firing. If you've been let go, you got to give an explanation why. B, are you currently in default on repayment of your state education and your student loans? Yes or no? Have you made any arrangements to work on it? So explain that there too. Yes.
If you are in default, if you owe the state any money, you won't be hired.
Well, you have to give them a plan on what you're doing.
Okay.
Okay. If you have something that's in the works or you're going to, put it in there, and it's up to them at that point. Okay. Number 11, high school. If you graduate from high school, yes. How many years? And GED. Did you graduate from GED? Yes or no? If you already got your high school, you don't fill in the GED part. Number 12, business and trade school correspondence. Any courses that you've taken in maybe any kind of school. Like, for example, if you went to, what is that school they always have on TV, ITT or something during the, yeah, one of those type of schools. If you went in and took a class or something, you can put that in. It's up to you if you want to. That really doesn't affect you one way or another if you put that in. Number 13, if you took any kind of class and you have a license of any kind, for example, real estate license or any other license that you can get, you put that in there. If you're an attorney, you put in, your professional license as an attorney. So you put that in that section number 13. Number 14 is one of the most important parts of the whole application, okay? It's very important that you put in the name of the university, so you put Chicago School of Psychology right here, and then you put in the amount of credit hours, semester hours you've taken in this box. And then you put your major, psychology, type it in totally. If you have a minor, you put it in here. Then when you started the class, from what month to what year, and if you graduated, when it was your ending time, and your MA, and the date that you got your degree, okay? Very simple. But a lot of people have problems filling this part in. I don't know. It might be intimidating, but the other thing is you got to put your other undergrad school here. So if you went to University of Illinois before you came here, you're going to put UIC and the amount of semester hours, and the same thing for that school. And you put the BA right here, and then when you got your BA. So you got MA, BA, maybe you got an associate's. You put AA on this one, and you went to, Daily College right here. Okay, so that's how you fill it in. Very important. Now, what's important? Yeah.
Some of the students will be applying for their LPC, their licensed professional counselor license, and on the application, they wouldn't put that they have it, but they can put that it's pending. Is there a place that they can put where it's pending?
They can put it under number 13. It says number state issued. They still don't have a number. It still hasn't been issued. They could put pending right there.
Okay.
Where it says number, they could put pending.
Okay.
Yeah, that would work. That would work. Okay. Now, what I was going to say is, let me move this up 14 up so you could still see it. Okay. Whatever number you put in here of semester hours you took here at this school here or UIC or Daily College, all of these credits, if they total to 180 or 200, whatever you put down here on this next graph on page 3 has to total that number. So that's why it's important that that you have the transcripts so that you can make sure that if your transcripts total between the 2 or 3 universities was 200 credits, you got to make sure that when you fill out this graph down here, you put 6 hours here, 8 hours here, 4 hours here, 12 hours here, that it all totals to 200 that you got when you graduated. Okay? So that's where I have the major issues with a lot of the people that apply. They'll put 120 next to psychology, and that's it. And I'm like, wait a minute, all you took were psychology classes? Oh, no, I took English. Well, you got to split it up. You got to split it up. Yeah.
So what if you took like transfer, if you have transfer credit hours from I would say a city college, do you still list that city college there?
You fill it in there too.
Okay. And
So if you took 4 classes of English in the city college and only 2 classes of English in the university, you put in those 6 classes in there, the credit hours for those 6 classes.
okay.
And if they all,
city college,
and yeah, and if they were all in education, if it was 6 classes, there were 3 credits each, 6 times 3, 18 hours, you put all 18 hours right here where it says education. And if you took any education class in the master's level, you put it right here, 3 hours master's. So this is the master's, these 2 columns for master's, and these are the 2 columns for undergrad. We have semesters and quarters. Some universities still have quarters, so that's why we have that breakdown, semesters or quarters. Okay? So make sure you put it in the right column. A lot of people make that mistake. They put it in the wrong column. So, yeah. And that's a reason enough for CMS to send it back to you, and you lose time. So that's why it's always good to have someone review your application before you turn it in. If I'm not available, go to the 3rd floor CMS. Let them see it before you turn that in. Okay? It'll save you months. Definitely save you months. Okay? Okay, so any question? The other thing is, if the classes are not listed on this whole page, down here where it says Other, you can fill in, you can say beautician or whatever class you took that was, or softball class or whatever. But usually you put that under physical education. I mean, you kind of have to match it to where if it's basically not there, then you put it here. If it's a psychology related class that's a psychology class, put it under psychology. Okay. And then on the bottom of the page, it says if you have to comment on anything there, you can comment on that part right on the bottom of that page. Okay, number 15. This is work experience. This is all related to any experience you have, both work experience or volunteer experience. Let's say, for example, you were a volunteer at a church, and you were doing office work. You were making referrals. You were setting up people for their weddings, or I mean, that's volunteer work is experience, even though you were volunteering. So that can be put on this application in addition to all the work that you've done in the past. So just make sure you indicate the employer name, the address, the position you had, days of employment from what month and year to what month and year, what was your salary, and was this your annual salary or monthly salary? Put on here annual and monthly so we know. How many years and how many months? Okay, so if you work for AT&T for 5 years, 5 months, put all that information in there, and then you say, this is what I was doing at this company. Fill it in here, okay? Now, the box that's given on the computer, you can keep typing and typing and typing and typing. That thing will keep going. But when they print it out, the only thing that's going to be seen is what's on this page here. So try to fill everything in within these 5 lines that you're going to put in there. Don't go beyond 5 lines, because it makes it a little bit too hard, too much to read for the person who's grading it, okay? Now, what was the reason for leaving? This is what we mentioned earlier. If it was a layoff, contract ended, those are fine, that's not a problem. You were left for a promotion, you left, you went back to school. I mean, those are the kinds of responses you can give at the end of that application. And okay? And then you go to the next one. You're going to be starting with your most recent employment or current employment, and you're going backwards. Okay, that's how this works. So whatever you're working goes first, and then you're going backwards in your work history. If you need additional pages, just add another page in there. Just copy and paste another page into it. Okay?
How far back should you go? Should you go over 10 years or just 10 years?
It's up to you. If it helps the position you're applying for, you put it in. Like, for example, I've worked for the state of Illinois 27 years. I worked for 3 different agencies in those 27 years. But prior to that, I worked for city colleges. I worked for legal aid. I worked for, but I'm not putting those in. I'm just putting the state employment. So that's my decision. That's your decision, too. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so on this page, now what they did, they're asking for a email. Took us years to get them to finally change this application and ask people for emails because that's the major way to correspond with a person. I think eventually an email will be the way that they will let you know about the interview, but they still require that it be sent by mail, okay? Fill in the affirmative action section, what applies to you, and then if you have a disability, yes or no, that is up to you. It's optional. All of it is optional, okay? On this part of the application, these are all the assessment centers that CMS has in the state. So if you want to go in and take a test, you can take it without a problem in Chicago, without a problem in Springfield. In these other locations, you have to make an appointment, by appointment only, okay? So if you want to apply for a position that requires a test, you have to call in and make the appointment. And that's pretty much it. I think I covered it right within the limit. But I'll stay here for any other questions you might have. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I filled out an application before, and I was instructed to go to an assessment center. Now, do you have to print out the application and take it with you, or do they
always take copies of your application with you, without the signature, without the date, and without the title. Okay. Take one that you're taking for what you already know you're going to apply for, already signed and everything. But take at least 10 blank copies, okay, so that when you're there, when the counselor tells you, well, you should apply for these other 3 positions, you just fill in the titles and you submit them right there and then. So, yeah, you can't, always be prepared. Bring your own copies, because if you try to get a copy there, it's going to be a hassle. They might not have time. They might not have a copier. So, yeah. But anyway, if you have any questions, if you're really interested in applying, I can help you out. You have my information. It's on that sheet, with the position, job title. My email's there, and just give me a call, and I will be in touch with you. Okay? And tell your friends, too. Anybody who's graduating.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Yes, it's good to meet you.
Yeah. See if there's anyone online.
Usually it takes me 2 hours.
Oh, to go through it?
Yeah. Yeah, this is fine. 1 hour is fine. I think it's enough, and nobody fell asleep.
Thanks for the information. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
I'm Shantala. Yeah, so I'll definitely be contacting you to submit my application. I have a lot of experience. I've worked for Illinois actually for like 15 years. So are you familiar with Illinois?
Oh, yeah, very familiar.
Yeah.
You know what? I need to hire licensed